Welcome back to another segment of the MCR Mac and me. My name's TJ. Please like, share, and subscribe. And Rumble, we're really trying to push Rumble. So if you're watching us on Rumble, thank you very much. In this segment, we're going to talk about two politicians in D.C., obviously. Uh, Mitch McConnell, who's currently a senator out of Kentucky. Don't know how much longer he'll be a senator, but currently he's a senator representing Kentucky, and a woman of color from the Lone Star State of Texas, currently a representative, but she's running to be the next senator in Texas, and she's running into some problems. And to be honest, I find it to be I find there to be a little bit of poetic justice there involving her situation. So there's the shameless tease, everyone.
Yeah, I believe she has been redistricted out along with her cohort, the Geico caveman, Al Green.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, Texas redrew the districts. She lost her representative district. And so she thinks, given her popularity, she thinks she's going to be the next senator from Texas. And the dirty little secret, which is kind of coming to light now, the Democrats, her own party, they don't want her to run for senator. They know she's, you know what? They know what she is. They know she's uh when the word escapes me, like it's comical the way she presents herself. Okay?
Well, she is the color version of Marjorie Taylor Greene, immature, uh, attention seeker.
And it's interesting you mentioned her because those two really seem to dislike each other, taking shots at each other, on the floor and everything else. So yeah, but Jasmine Crockett, she she is running against a white dude by the name of James Talarico, Talarico, James Talarico. Okay.
Yeah, I've never heard of him, but I'm sure he's a white supremacist.
Well, I think he's a representative too. So I don't know if the two of them got written out of their district and now they're running against each other to become senator. Anyways, Talarico is running political ads against her during the primary season. So, since we are in the primary season, these ads are intended for Democrat voters. Okay? There's a reason why I'm making a big deal of this. Because in these ads, ran by James Talarico, Jasmine Crockett is a woman of color, and the Talarico team has enhanced her color.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
not really, but no.
They've dark
Explain.
they've darkened her skin,
Oh,
and and she's not happy about it. And she's accusing them of racism. And now, as a Democrat primary voter, if you vote for James Talarico in the Democrat primary, you're a racist. So says
but
Jasmine Crockett.
at any point in her life, someone's lips leave her ass, her now darker ass, then you're a racist. That's her answer for everything. Everyone's a white supremacist who doesn't kiss her ass, and everyone who doesn't kiss her ass is a racist.
Well, I'm thinking this couldn't happen to a better person. You know, I just it's I find the whole situation comical. And then there's the Steve Colbert thing. And she was hoping to go on Steve Colbert and throw her pitch. And I guess Steve Colbert had James Talarico on his show. Colbert show is on one of the main networks, and I forget which one.
I want to say it's CBS, but I don't
Okay.
watch that ass clown.
Now, FCC rules say, oh, Colbert, you had Talarico on there. Now you got to have James. Now you got to have Jasmine Crockett on there. So you know what the Colbert Show did? They edited out the interview of James Tallarico for the on-air program, but ran it on the internet since that was not subject to FCC rules.
Yeah, the FCC requires equal time. So if you have, let's say, President Trump on for an hour, then you have to have, in this last case, Kamala Harris on for an hour
So
or
they
half hour,
they
whatever I
did
said.
not want, they being the Democrats and the left, they did not want Jasmine Crockett on the Colbert Show, and the only way they could keep it from going nationwide on air was saying, "Hey, James, we can't run your segment on the show either, but we'll run it on the internet." And
Was there any in the story you read? Was there any explanation as to why they didn't want her on?
no, they 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 just didn't want to interview her. They didn't want her on the Colbert Show. Also, it's reported that after his ad ran on the internet, he had a $2.5 million surge in fundraising in a 24-hour period. That didn't sit too well with her either. you know.
Let's say they don't. Let's say for the sake of argument, and I don't know because you said it didn't indicate that they don't why they don't want her on. But the best if you don't like her and you don't want her to win, well, like Kamala Harris and more recently AOC, just let them talk.
Well,
They will show themselves if you just let them talk. So I think it was foolish to not put her on.
well, here's what I did read. The Democrat Party believes Tallarico has a better chance of winning the Senate race than Jasmine Crockett. For that
Right?
reason alone, they it's like they want her to go away, and she ain't going away, and she don't like being told to go away. So because she's
Do you
told,
know? Yeah. Do you know which Senate seat? Because of course there are two in Texas. Ted Cruz and John Cornyn. Do you know which seat they're running for?
it might be the Cornyn, but I'm just guessing. I'm just
Okay.
guessing. Because yeah, I hear the current Texas AG. Yeah, it might. It's got to be the Cornyn one because I think the Texas Attorney General, who's very MAGA,
Yeah.
uh, he's for the Republic. He wants to be the Republican candidate
Right.
for that Senate seat. So that's what I'm thinking.
Well,
Hopefully I'm
Cornyn
correct.
needs to be primaried out, so I'm all for it.
Uh, I do believe that's part of the Republican effort, MAGA effort.
Yeah,
But
well, he's stabbed us in the back enough times, as far as I'm concerned, so he can go away.
well, speaking about being stabbed in the back, let's just parry into the Mitch McConnell situation now, because Mitch McConnell's stabbing us in the back. Okay.
Well, someone is. I don't know if it's Mitch because Mitch seems to be on the edge of being comatose every time I see him.
Well, there's a representative out of Tennessee from the second congressional district of Tennessee by the name of Tim Burkett, and he is livid with the McConnell team. Uh, he's he gives McConnell the credit for stalling the SAVE Act because they're so close to having the 50 to force a talking filibuster, okay? And now McConnell's the fly in the ointment, okay? But he goes, I don't think it's McConnell. He goes, McConnell isn't there. McConnell is, as we used to say in the military, his brain is TDY. And if you're from the out of the military, you'll know what that means, temporary duty and route. But we always used to say, man, that person's brain is TDY. Well, Mitch's brain is TDY, and
Yeah.
and he made a statement to the press just a couple days ago. It's on video, and during the statement to the press, first of all, what he says didn't make sense, and then he freezes mid-sentence and stands there for perhaps close to a half a minute, so long that a handler staff member had to move in and steer him away. I mean, steer him. I mean,
Yeah,
they were like,
he's physically or mentally unfit to be in the United States Senate. That
and
that
and
I don't know how anyone disputes that.
and I got to tell you, it was worse than watching Joe Biden. What I saw in that video segment, it was worse than Joe Biden. And everyone knows how Joe Biden was steered off stage and everything else. You know what? What I saw seemed to be worse. And the worst part about the Mitch McConnell situation, he's a senator from Kentucky. Kentucky has a Democrat governor. If Mitch resigns, the governor gets to assign a temporary senator until the next election or whatever. And
They're gonna be as far left as they can be.
it's going to be a Democrat. So we're we're in a catch-22, I guess you could
Well,
say.
I believe he or she would be required to appoint someone from that party. So it would be a Republican, but it's going to be the weakest Republican they can find, the biggest rhino they can find.
Well, you know,
And if I'm wrong about that, please someone correct me in the comment section.
in any event, that's what we got for this segment. Jasmine being stabbed in the back by her own party, and the MAGA people being stabbed in the back by our own party. Okay, and I look.
Well, just to be clear, I won't speak for you, but you can chime in here. I am not a Republican. I'm a constitutional conservative. I have to vote Republican because that's all that's left. Certainly not going to vote for libertarians because they're just leftists who want to keep their money. So I don't know how you fall there, but
Well, I'll tell you how I fall. I am a registered Republican. I vote primarily Republican for lack of a better option. Okay.
I also have to be a registered Republican because that's how it works here in Michigan. You have to be registered as one party or the other. So I'm kind of forced into that. But I don't consider myself a Republican. I don't think Donald Trump is a Republican either.
I've always said, well, you know what? You mentioned Donald Trump. He was interviewed saying that he ran as a Republican because he had more in common with the Republican Party than the Democrat
Right.
Party. And
You know,
and
like kind of like us.
yeah, and and I've said this before too. In Donald Trump's mind, he just happens to think this is the way it ought to be. So the way he thinks it just ought to be is more in keeping with the Republicans than the Democrats. Thus, like I said, lack of a better choice, there you have it, you know, and there you have it.
Right.
So I've said my piece. Any final ranting on your part there, Mac?
No, I'm done ranting. You know, I'm just making sure my powder's dry now.
It's just, and I got to tell you, at this point, I'm not convinced the Save Act is going to pass in the Senate because, if Mitch is going to be a female pup, you know,
He's doing it out of spite, or
yeah.
his camp is doing it out of. I don't know that he's making any decisions. There ought to be a standard in the Senate and in the House where people can be challenged and they have to take tests for their mental acuity. He will not pass that test, and And once you get past, well, if you can't pass said test, then you get removed.
Well, and you're uh, kind of restating Tim Burkett, Representative Burkett, his complaint. He goes, you got these unelected staff members calling the shots for a guy who isn't there mentally, and
Well, we saw it with Dianne Feinstein.
yeah, so you know, buckle up for the ride is all I can say. You know.
Right.
All right, so much for this rant. Thank you everyone for letting us say our piece, and we'll catch you in the next segment. As always, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.